Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we welcome you back. 500 Mile Podcast. My name is Justin Kolb alongside Michael Skinner. Michael, got some good stuff to talk about this weekend. Man, what a race we saw at Kansas this weekend. I mean, sure, depending on which side of the fence you're on, you can take a stand on whether you thought the race was good or bad, I guess. But I mean, at the end of the day, with the package that we had and everything, we saw a fantastic race. It seemed like from the drop of the green flag all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can say. I thought it was a great race throughout, action packed, and I think one of my favorite things is it's very few races now that we get just natural cautions, and we got a ton of those. The cars were
Sure.
relatively looked like they were tough to drive. Everybody was running really hard. You saw a lot of accidents on the restarts, just by people trying to get that track position, because track position is always super important. But it didn't seem like that if you went back to the back, you could relatively drive your way up through the field if you had a top five or so car. Um, so yeah, I thought it was a great race, man. I wish we could go back to Kansas next week and the week after that. Makes me miss Chicagoland a little bit, but definitely glad this is a place that has two dates on the schedule, and I think this is probably the second race, really of the year that I think's just been absolutely fantastic. So hopefully Darlington is the same. We're gonna have another worn out surface, and then we're going to North Wilkesboro. But yeah, I don't have anything to complain about. I loved it. Um, I chose to watch that fully with commercials, than even watching the F1 race without commercials. So uh, yeah, I'd say I was pretty happy camper until the start of what was that, stage two.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, man, what a good finish. I know it's going to be controversial, but good finish. Good ending. Good little tussle at the end. All in all, I think, like you said, from really the start to the finish, uh, you know, I don't see how you can say that it wasn't a good race.
So you brought up the finish here. Let's just kind of quickly unpack that because we did talk about that a little bit before we went on air here. But um, there does seem to be some hate, I guess, some negativity towards Denny towards that. Where I think you and I both kind of agree it doesn't really seem like it's necessary, especially since the driver was, I don't know if okay with it was the correct word, but I mean, they talked about it, and they were pretty much over it at the end of it. It seemed like, but I mean, um, there were some good points made there for the people that were at the race. You know, you don't really have a good angle as to what happened, so I mean, from their point of view, they probably just thought that Denny turned Kyle Larson there, but I mean, you could definitely see from that back straightaway shot that I mean, and I mean, even just go back, what, 15 laps before that, coming to 15 to go. I mean, how many times did that five get loose or hit the wall? At some point, very well documented that that car was not handling well at all. You add that with the 11 packing a bunch of air on the back bumper there, and I mean, no one's going to lift on that, coming out of two on the white flag. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it seemed like just a racing deal. Again, they kind of talked it out there, and I mean, I didn't really see anything that Denny could have done too much differently. It's not really like he drove through him or anything. Just, I mean, unfortunately, barely caught him in the back bumper there, and I think the fives car was already out of control at that point, and I mean, that little touch seemed to just sort of end it all there. Michael, I'm not sure your thoughts.
Yeah, like you said, you and I kind of talked about it, before we got on air here, but um, yeah, no, I don't know how you can be really upset with the finish. It was 100% just a racing deal. Um, I'll put it this way: Denny was a lot closer 2 or 3 laps before that, and went to the bottom, raced him clean, and at that point doesn't know if he's even going to get a shot back at him. So if he honestly was going to do that, he's probably going to do it before that last lap because you don't know if you're going to get back to that guy after you try to make that clean pass. So, yeah, it is a racing deal. I don't know how you can not like Saturday's or Sunday's finish, sorry, and like last year's finish, right? It's almost a carbon copy of that finish, other than, I'd say Kurt even forced the issue a little bit more and put Larson into the wall. But if you look back at both of those, it's very similar. It's how the pass was going to be made for the win. Uh, Larson was already loose. He was the only groove all race that car was any good at was right up, doing the Larson groove. Um, if we go to Homestead and there's a car that's better than Larson is up top, which I don't think so, because the top is by far the best groove. Um, at Homestead, I don't think there's any bottom left. To be honest with you, I think the only time the bottom was left was the 2020 package, or the 2019-2020 package. But um, that's the only groove he had, so he had to send it in there every single time, and he was already loose. He didn't have anywhere else to go, because he knew if he went anywhere else, Hamlin was just going to blow his doors off, anyways. Um, Larson gave him 2 or 3 shots at him by just being too loose, by making mistakes. If you kind of look back over the past couple of years, we've seen Larson do that multiple times. It's not like it's the first time that we've seen him make multiple mistakes, either leading, being out front, and being pressured. So, um, I think Denny knew that he was loose, knew that he was just biding his time, and Kyle Larson kind of made the mistakes that brought himself, back into it. And then, kind of like the way I described it is, Denny judges where that outside wall is off of Kyle Larson's, left rear. That's how he knows how far he can go up, right? Because they're fighting for that space. The straighter you can make your steering wheel at the end of that corner, the faster your exit is going to be, which then leads down to down to the next corner. And then also, the tighter you can hug to that left rear, the bigger the side draft is, which you're going to slow that outside car down. Which that's where the biggest advantage of the outside is that momentum off the corners and throttle time. So he's judging his car off of Kyle Larson, and then Kyle Larson goes up there and smashes off the wall. Well, Denny doesn't know that he's going to go up there and smash off the wall. Denny just is following Larson up the racetrack, which that's what his job is to do. His job is to go to win the race. And Larson just happened to be a little too loose, pushed into the wall, and kind of created the contact. So I don't know how you can blame Denny on that one for a guy that's been honest and when he's wrecked people. I mean, heck, he flat out just crashed Denny Hamlin, JJ Yaley, whether he wants to say like, hey, I crashed him or not now, but he did. So for a guy that we've seen multiple times crash somebody for the win, this one was probably the least, actual crashing for the win that he's done.
Egregious.
And people, yeah, and people are upset. I don't know how, because I don't know how you can see that as a non-racing move like he did it on purpose. I just can't. I don't. It's in my opinion, if you think he does that on purpose there, honestly, I don't know how much racing you've actually watched. I don't, I just don't. We've seen it. We've seen that same accident for 15th.
Yeah.
We saw a super similar accident in the Truck Series on Saturday with even the 51 truck with Kyle, right? He got loose, got up into the wall. Ben Rhodes ran into the back of him. Okay, well, where's he gonna go? It's like not like you can make a decision as when somebody starts bouncing off the wall. So yeah, I don't know how you can explain that one as being an egregious attempt there, but hey, it was a good finish. I mean, whether you hated it or liked it, man, you got to say it was really, really good racing at the end there. Good racing the whole race. Definitely from start to finish, like you said, I agree kind of with you earlier. From start to finish, probably, honestly, one of the best races we've seen in a couple of years. If not since probably maybe, the Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch incident at Chicagoland. But yeah, man, just like I said, just makes you miss Chicagoland a little bit more, because that those racetracks are so similar, and it probably produce very similar results.
For sure. And we did have some more action even after the checkered flag, it seemed like. Well, it didn't seem like it actually happened. Ross versus Noah. This one was kind of interesting to me, because, I mean, Ross didn't necessarily run him up into the wall. Granted, he didn't leave him a ton of room, but as he said, he did leave him a lane. And I guess Noah took offense to that, gave him a little door down the straightaway. I don't remember what lap this was. I think it was somewhere in stage 2. But it sounded like Noah tried to get back to him again into 1 and checked up to 23 as well. But obviously everybody saw what happened on pit road. I don't really have much comment other than I guess Ross can fight. And I'm kind of... I kind of want to agree with everybody saying that, this is just slowly getting Ross slower and slower to, ultimate stardom, it seems like. Because, I mean, as Dale kind of said in the Dale Jr. download yesterday, the ingredients seem there. They're doing a little bit of the marketing with that. I guess it's just kind of how far with this do you want to go? Because, I mean, at this point, when you go that extreme, it seems like the sky's the limit with how popular you want to make this guy.
Yeah. The I like the attention that Ross brings. I think that the attention is good for the sport. I do think that it's a very, very thin line of good and then like being selective on like what actions you kind of take. So just kind of going back to the move with Noah, um, I get why Noah is upset. We've seen it, and I guarantee you that any other driver in that situation probably would have backed off a little bit, but they probably would have ran into the wall. Because what's happening there is that Ross is coming up the racetrack. Noah's flat out on the top, right? So he's full throttle. You don't really have much options at that point. And just that little bit of slight move up the track is making that outside car super super tight. Just that little bit move up is taking away probably a couple pounds of downforce, that us as spectators probably don't even realize that the drivers kind of feel. The best kind of throwback to that is what I can think of is uh Denny Hamlin is really good at this. um he's a guy that uses that to advantage. If you go back and watch a lot of the passes that he makes, um, and the one that remembers again, I'm a Kyle Busch fan, so the one that sticks to me is you go back to the All Star race or the Coke 600 last year, right? They're side by side through the green white checker, right? First lap side by side. Then they go down into turn one. That lap, Diddy makes a decision of I am just going to now drive him up the racetrack, right? And what happens? Kyle starts getting tighter and has to lift or he's going to run into the wall, right? Denny started taking away the air from the front of the 18 car at that point. Again, if you go back and kind of look at Kurt Busch's pass on Kyle Larson last year at Kansas, right? He kept moving Kyle Larson up the racetrack. He got tight, went into the wall. Look at Bubba and Kyle Larson at Kansas last year, right? Kyle Larson moved up the racetrack. Bubba drove into the wall because he got tight. At that point in time, there's nothing you can do. You and I know, Justin, because we see it more on iRacing. I don't think a lot of people understand like how much the wall juts out from the safer barrier between a corner and a straightaway, right? It's a huge transition.
Oh
It's
yeah.
probably a foot, right? And then a foot with like when you're talking about a foot in like driving a race car is massive. So like there's not a lot of room for error. So if he starts moving up just that little bit, it's taking away air. And yes, maybe Noah could have backed out, but I still think that the outcome would have been putting him into the wall. A car within these race cars with as wide as the back end is, like if you've ever looked at these new next gens cars, they look like an orange cone, right? They're shaped like an orange cone. They go like this, right? And that just creating a bigger wake. So it's hitting the rear fenders and the wake's going to the car behind it. It's what creates such big runs at super speedways. Um, so I think Ross knew exactly what he was doing. Noah knew what he was doing. Noah just didn't take the preventative actions to not run himself into the wall. So I think that's one on Noah to learn how Ross races, right? I think people know that's how Denny races. So they kind of know, right? Just like you take Kyle, right? Kyle knows that that's what Denny did at the Coke 600. At one point in time, he was like, I'm just going to run myself into the wall. I'm going to finish second. Those were the two choices. Um, Noah will learn to make those decisions at that point in time, especially that early in the race. But Ross 100% knew exactly what he was doing when he did it. Now, as far as the altercation, I think Noah went in there with the wrong mentality. In all honesty, I think if you go over there and put your hands on anybody, they're probably going to be pretty upset. And it's not the first time that Noah's made this mistake. He did the same thing to Daniel Hemrick, and he got punched in the face. Like the same, it was the exact same situation. It's like, why didn't you learn from the first time? If you're gonna honestly, with NASCAR's rule set, you get one punch, right? It's either you want to be the one punch or you want to make the first punch. You gotta, if Noah goes over there and just takes a swing at him, right? This conversation is totally different,
I mean,
right?
he had it lined up. Just that
Yeah,
guy in the gold
yeah,
shirt.
dude,
I'll
that
tell
was
you
a
what though,
haymaker.
that kid though, I
That
mean, he can take some punches now.
that was a hey, listen, that Noah was planning, man. That was a haymaker.
Yeah,
If that landed, that was probably going to be a good one.
yeah.
The the one thing that I'll say is I don't think, and this is the dangerous line, right? Is Ross, you know, Ross retaliated, right, in an aggressive manner, right? It's proving his aggressive streak. But at some
Mm.
point in time, it's going that's going to not work in his favor. I don't remember Dale Earnhardt go out and punching anybody.
Well, I don't know that that's very accurate because I mean, at that point, all he was doing was defending himself. When someone grabs onto you like that, I mean, he told him to stop twice. Keep in mind.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is that in that instance, right, that's what the bodyguard's there for, right? If the bodyguard's going to do his job,
So
he's going to prevent those altercations from
he
happening.
wasn't doing his job though.
But that's exactly my point though, is right. We let Ross do that, but we don't let any retaliation, right? Same thing on the racetrack. We let Ross get away with stuff, but then when there's a retaliation of that, it's not okay, right? That's where kind of my thing is that you can't be mad at Denny for saying, "Hey, I crashed a guy that's been crashing everybody for the past 12 months." Right? They've now set the precedent of that you can't mess with certain people, right? That's kind of what we're getting at, right? They warned the 9 and the 11 at where was it? Worldwide Technology Raceway last year, right?
That's a different
When he was
scenario.
I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 years ago, somebody would have went in there and just flat out dumped the shit out of that one car.
That's what they should have done.
Right? Exactly. But so they mess with Ross. If Ross is going to do that and he's going to be okay with it, right? Then NASCAR has to kind of let people beat up on Ross if they're going to allow it from one person, then they're going to have to allow the consequences.
Well,
You can't pick and choose because here's my thing, right? So if Ross goes and turns the leader at North Wilkesboro, right? Goes and turns the leader and it's Chase Elliott, right? What's going to happen? Right? There's going to but exactly, right? So what if Chase Elliott goes out next week and just intentionally crashes the one car? What are they going to do?
I want to say they're probably not going to do anything, but you can't say that because of everything that's happened this year, which is just, it's an awful position to be in. And that's what really hurts my head.
That is exactly my point is I think that NASCAR really, really wants Ross to be the next big thing, right? They see the attraction of it. They see the things that he's going to do. But there's two things that rely on that is you are now going to have to set a precedent as that Ross can do this to you, but you cannot do this back to Ross because we know that it's a retaliation because we already know that he's done something dumb to you. Right? If Kyle goes out and wrecks the one car this week at Darlington after what he said on the radio, do you think that that it was probably an accident? Right? What's going through your head at that point in time? That's my point. So that's my number one. That's my first problem with it. My second problem is that Ross he's won 2 races, right? The first one that he crashed 3 people on the last lap to win it, right? He won at a super speedway. In my honest opinion, Ross hasn't won anything on merit other than an Xfinity race at where was that at? Las Vegas? Right? So
he did win in Las Vegas, yes.
I think the Xfinity race at Las Vegas, right? And a few truck races.
Yes.
Right? So, but that's they need, if this is going to be successful, right? They have to be successful. They have to be really successful. right? Why do people love Dale Earnhardt? Because he became successful. If Dale Earnhardt goes out there, does what he does, and wins 2 races, do you think that he's Dale Earnhardt today? No. But NASCAR pushed it because he was successful and he's a fan favorite. If Ross doesn't figure out how to be successful, this is going to backfire. Look at how rough it was for NASCAR for the first, 5 years of Chase Elliott's career when he couldn't figure out how to win anything. They were all in on Chase Elliott when he was in the Xfinity Series. Got to Cup, took him 5 years to win something. Right? That excitement slowly dwindled. Then he won something, everybody was okay though. But if Ross goes 5 years without winning again, what? Which I don't think is going to happen. But you know what I'm saying? If he's not nearly as successful as what people probably think that he should be, is all this marketing ploy and all of that really worth anything? When you have guys that are out there that are successful, right? Like your William Byrons in the world, you're not marketing any of these other people. You're literally hedging your bet on two race car drivers right now, Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. They're the fan favorite and the heel. If the fan favorite is successful, that's good, right? But if the fan favorite Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not good, then it makes the heel, if he wins a lot, not as good. And then you have division and you don't have the popularity. What made NASCAR so successful before is you had heels that were really, really good. And then you had your heroes that were really, really good. And all they did was butt heads. But if both of them run on different spectrums of the racetrack, what good does that do? That'd be like that would be like having a comic book to where you didn't see the villain until the end and he was already in jail. Like you have Spider-Man and he does all of his things, and then there's just the Green Goblin in prison. But you read through the whole comic book for nothing. How would that make you feel? That's why I think it's a very dangerous sword to hedge your bets on Ross Chastain right now, especially because there is going to have to be a double-edged sword. You're going to have to let people race him the way he races people, and NASCAR is going to have to be okay with it, which means they're going to have to go against kind of what they told to Denny, because 90% of Ross's crashes last year were either stupid or intentional. You cannot tell me that there's a difference between what he did at COTA last year than what Denny did to him. Which one do you think is more egregious?
What are you referring to? What Denny did to him? Are you talking Phoenix? Are you talking Pocono?
No, I'm talking Phoenix. When he got penalized, when he got penalized for saying that he intentionally crashed him, right?
Well, obviously, no, you can't say it's the same because there's too many things to list that were different in those scenarios. But
one was applauded, one was literally frowned upon. When I think one of the drivers that we should, as a sport, hedge our bets behind, Denny Hamlin is a national treasure for NASCAR. The dude is honest. He's blunt. He tells you how it is. He fully supports NASCAR, gives back, wants nothing but the sport to be successful. Right? Talks good about NASCAR. He talks good about the people that run it. Right? He's the type of person we should be putting our hedging our bets behind. Right? Instead, we're putting it behind somebody who's not yet been super successful in his career, but is also going out and just making a bonehead of himself. And I do think eventually somebody is going to have enough, right? There's going to be a day when he's going to run into probably Joey Logano, and we all know that Joey Logano has already admitted that he does not care. He's going to race you how you race him.
He did,
right?
He did poke our bear a little bit this weekend, which was kind of interesting. But
yeah, I mean, look what he did to William Byron, right? He said even Denny Hamlin has said multiple times, right? Joey in a race car just does not give a care. He just doesn't. Look at all the times that he's just automatically wrecked somebody, right? For a little accident, he's So there's going to come a time when he's going to run into somebody that is going to have enough. The problem is right now is he's running into people that actually have respect for the person that they're driving, right? He's running into your Chase Elliott's. He's running into your Denny Hamlins. He's running into your Kyle Busch. He's running into your Kevin Harvicks. All of these race car drivers have respect for that other car. Kind of like Noah said, right? He respects Trackhouse Racing, and he's not going to wreck one of their race cars, right? He's going to run upon somebody that does not care about that, right? It's going to kind of like reach a boiling point, in my mind, kind of like the Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer situation, right? Somebody is going to be eventually that upset that they're just going to turn him head on into the wall. I'm sorry. It just, even you have to agree, it cannot go on as long as it's going on and not have some type of like ending, retaliation from somebody that just doesn't care.
I
It's
guess
going to
time will
happen.
tell.
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. I see him, and I don't know. This isn't going to be the popular opinion, but it's my opinion. I see him slowly getting a little bit better each week. Obviously, there's still some mistakes, but I can see it in his driving that he is trying to be better just based off some of the things I'm saying. Denny made a note of it, gave him a few breaks on Sunday. I think at this point, yes, 2022 was a very, very rough season for Ross Chastain, and that's, I mean, maybe putting it a little bit lightly. This year, it seems like he's tried to get better. Obviously, yes, he wrecked the 15 at Dover. Do I think he meant to do that? No. You can kind of tell it in his voice. Do I think he was faking that? No. What purpose does he have to wreck the 15 right there? I think it was an honest mistake. I think he didn't know he was going to be letting off into the corner that early. Whatever it is, I don't think he meant to do that there. Obviously, this Sunday, what happened with Noah, you can say what you want about that. I I still think that it's going to take some time, but I think he's working on himself, and I think we hear less about Ross Chastain, even though he threw a punch this year. I think we hear less and less about him as the season goes on, but that's just me.
What,
He may make a
what is
complete tool of himself.
what is that old saying? A tiger never changes its stripes.
Yes, but
How many times did we hear that there is a new Kyle Busch?
You got to keep in mind though, 2022 was his first year in the Cup Series in I would say, a relatively competitive race car. Sure, he was with Chip Ganassi Racing in 2021, but wasn't the most competitive. This is third year in Cup. He's got to figure it out. Everybody goes through this. Obviously, yes, he was in the Xfinity Series. He was very aggressive. You could kind of compare it to how Ty Gibbs was. Maybe Ty Gibbs was a more egregious version of that, but, he's coming to the Cup Series. He's just trying to figure it out. Yes, Ross is a little bit rougher around the edges about that, but you got to figure it out. Eventually, everybody does, and I think he's going to eventually figure it out. Hell, Kyle Larson even made the comment, I didn't listen to it, but he made the comment in his podcast today that, he could be more popular than Chase Elliott in the future. And I mean, I could see that happening if he figures everything out and, he finds his spot in line in the Cup Series. Right now, he's still trying to figure it out. I think he will in the next year or so.
But you kind of also made my argument there too, is Ty Gibbs did the same exact things last year. And we're praising one, and we literally hated the other one on it.
Yeah, we hate the other, but you know what? That was the Xfinity Series, and these boys know when you get to the Cup Series that you can't make those same types of stuff. Gibbs sees that. Obviously, he's a completely different. Do you agree with this? He's a total 180 from what he was last year, at least so far in this season where we're at now. Is he a complete 180 from last season in terms of his driving style?
Yes. However, he is not constantly running up front like he did at the Xfinity level.
Well, that's fair.
I will hold my reservation until we see his opportunity to go win a race.
Hey, I mean, it's been one race, but he was up front this week. Was there anything? And again, this is one race. I'm not trying to make you prove anything, but did you see anything from what he did this week other than him destroying his car with his tire. He'll figure that out. But did you see anything from him this weekend that made you go, I don't know about that?
There hasn't been anything this season that I've seen from Ty, and that's my honest opinion. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, I think this year he's going about his attitude to everything, keeping his mouth shut. Right, he's doing, I think, the way that you should supposed to be doing it, building that respect among your peers and your race car drivers. Right, that's kind of where we're at. That's my reservation with Ross is the dude is going to have he's gonna be given no respect.
Yes,
Right,
until he starts giving it, I feel.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. But how many people are actually going to trust that?
It's just gonna take time. I mean, at this
You
point,
know,
he's put himself in such a hole right now that he's got a lot of digging and a lot of hands to shake to get out of it right now. But is it impossible? No.
No, but if he keeps,
if he keeps doing it, then yeah.
But if he keeps getting in shit
list,
you know what I'm saying? But if he keeps getting in tussles, I'm not even saying that what he did on Sunday was wrong. I know. I'm just saying he knew what he was doing. Noah knew what he was doing. Noah drove himself into the wall. I'm not discounting that. Ross did the same thing at Pocono when Denny did it to him last year, right?
You could say, I guess, that Ross put Noah in the same situation that Denny put him in at Pocono. You either lift or you hit the wall.
Yeah, that's the 100% same thing that Kyle Larson does to people, right? Kyle Larson gives you a choice, either wreck or lift, right? But just the fact that he's just in another tussle.
And I think most of that comes with Noah. I think he wanted to be the hero, if you will, and also we know from the Xfinity series that, excuse my French, he just doesn't give a shit. Like, he just flat out, he doesn't care what you think about him, doesn't care what you have to say. He'll go out and do whatever he needs to do, and if he ruffles feathers, so be it. But I think he was just trying to be, from what he sounded like, from what he said, he tried to be the hero on Sunday to do something to Ross. And I mean, I don't know if it's fair to say he made a fool of himself, but he went about it the wrong way. Is ultimately, I think, what everybody is saying, and I'll agree with it. I think he went about it the wrong way. And if someone tells you to stop, he definitely should have. Yeah, and if someone's saying stop, maybe I guess with Ross, maybe next time if he says stop, maybe listen to him, because that punch landed, and that didn't really sound like it felt very good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's tough when it gets broken up too. Like
well, that was the weirdest thing, was there was no crew member, and I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but there were no crew members in that, really. And I mean, that was kind of the best thing. There was just that one golden shirt man who I still don't know who he was affiliated with, who he was.
NASCAR. He works for NASCAR.
He works for NASCAR yet.
He works for NASCAR. He's a NASCAR bodyguard. That's his job, is to stand by Ross Chastain to keep him from getting his ass beat. That's essentially what.
Do we know this for certain? Because that doesn't sound.
Yeah, he's a NASCAR bodyguard that's assigned there. Okay. Every NASCAR, I think every driver has a bodyguard. If I from NASCAR, if I believe. I think you see them. I think they're always in plain clothes, but they're always there. Like, I think if you pay attention, like you'll notice.
It's been pretty recent because they usually don't do shit apparently.
They used to wear like the white, right? They used to know that they were NASCAR officials.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But
all right, I do kind of want to. I want to put a bow on this, but I don't know.
Yeah. I guess my final thing is just, I like Ross. I do. Us as a series, we can't show bias. If somebody's gonna go out there and retaliate and wreck him because of all the shit he's done, then we can't penalize that person and then the next week praise on something that he did.
Yeah.
That's I guess that's my line. You just can't, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do want to tie up a loose end from last week since we missed that. Kind of big news, and I think you and I are both on the same page with this. Legacy Motor Club making the switch from Chevy to Toyota in 2024. I guess right off the bat, this makes a ton of sense because if you understand the pecking order of Chevrolet, you understand that Legacy Motor Club was very low on that totem pole. Um, and it was pretty clear that they weren't getting a ton of support. And it was very, very clear this year that something probably needed to change next year, because this beginning of at least the beginning of the year, has been a disaster, to say the least. So this makes a ton of sense. It was funny because I was thinking, I think the week it came out, it was definitely in my mind that, man, like when you think about it, Toyota doesn't really have a lot of cars on the track, and like I don't really know who you can get, because this team was not on my radar. But because when you look at it, you have Jimmy Johnson, who just came in as ownership, who has been a Chevy guy his entire life, and it's really sad to think that they couldn't have come to a better deal or anything like that. But I mean, it's Toyota's win at that point. You get two more cars. You go up from 6 to 8 in the field next year, and um, it's funny because I think I'd mentioned it to you. Toyota seems with these moves it makes, they seem to get the old Toyota guys back who they lost, because obviously they had Eric, who they let go, and Noah, who they had in the truck series before Chevy scooped him up. So they're they're technically getting back two guys that they started to develop. Obviously Eric went all the way, winning a few races with Joe Gibbs, but it's kind of funny with Noah that he pretty much got poached away when came to the Xfinity series, but he ended up coming back. So ultimately, like I said, Michael, I'll let you give your opinion, but I think we're kind of on the same page that this is ultimately going to be a win for Legacy Motor Club. Maybe not immediate results, but when you understand the legacy, the hierarchies within the manufacturers, you're going to understand that for performance and in terms of just manufacturer support, this is going to be an absolute win for Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah, I don't see how you can say that it's not, surprising that it comes from, like you said, somebody that's been in a Chevy. Honestly, I think Jimmy drove Chevys when he was in the dirt truck
In the Stadium Super Trucks, yeah. He was
Yeah.
doing the
So
Chevys.
I mean, he's probably been with Chevy for probably 30 years. So that one's super surprising. But I mean, heck, the guy's running in Le Mans in the Chevy, prototype
Yeah.
NASCAR over there. So the
That's what
dude
makes
has
a lot
been
of things
integrated.
happen.
Yeah, it's been integrated into Chevrolet for, like I said, probably going on 30 years of his life, and just to suddenly, not I would say suddenly for us, but I mean, obviously this deal has been worked probably honestly since Legacy Motorsports probably became a thing. This talk has probably been going on,
I do
especially.
oh, go ahead.
God,
I want to read a quick quote here from Maury, because I want to see your opinion on this as well, because this one kind of tells you where they're at with that. His quote from, there was a Zoom meeting that happened when that announcement was made. Maury Gallagher, who is one of the co-owners of that team, made the quote, "I love competition, being in the back of the pack. Some can live there, but it is not a place that I'm willing to live." And I think that just
yeah,
speaks
no,
volumes.
I trust me. I think RPM, and even when it was what was it, Gillette Evernham, or through all that process, right? We've seen that 43 car in Evernham Motorsports, and what Gillette Evernham with Petty, and then all the names that it came, and Petty Enterprise, Petty Motorsports, all that stuff, right? We've seen that car struggle for 30 years. Um, and they've always kind of been on the back end of the support structure of whatever manufacturer that they were kind of with. So this is an opportunity to go from, I mean, they were probably third it was Chevy.
I think they were fourth, because you had Hendrick, RCR, Trackhouse, and
Trackhouse,
then I
yeah.
think it came
Yeah, so
GMS or Legacy.
so fourth, I mean, you're probably going to go to third, but it's a lot less cars. Like that's the biggest thing.
Yep.
You know, and Toyota does a really really good job of making sure that all the teams, work as one. I mean, we've seen that for years. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see next year the 43 and the 42 go out in there and have the success that they should have been having over the past couple of years. I mean, we kind of all ragged on Ty in the 42 last year for having such bad performances. Well, I mean, maybe we were giving the guy too much criticism, because maybe they're just not that good. Eric clearly got a couple good runs last year and won the Southern 500, but that wasn't indicative of anything that they did during the year. That just happens to be his best racetrack, and just happened to be that the people leading kind of disappeared from the race,
Yeah.
with 19 laps to go. Uh, so yeah, I mean it's good. Um, Honestly, I the team that I really thought so in the back of my head last year when Kyle was going through that contract stuff with Joe Gibbs and stuff like that, knowing that Kyle probably wanted to stay with Toyota and knowing that the teams, that he was having conversations with, honestly, I thought for a long time that he was going to end up going to Colleague in the 16 car, and the Colleague was going to become a Toyota team. Um, Not only do they have a successful Xfinity team that could go along with the three cars of Joe Gibbs Racing, right? You're just adding a bigger piece. Um, you have a bunch of drivers that are signed up. You have, you know, basically drivers waiting in the wings to take over those cars. Um, I thought Colleague was going to be the team that actually made the move over to Toyota sooner rather than later because they're kind of in this same boat, right? They were the fifth team. Why you got to make the move sooner, sooner rather than later. So surprised that it's Legacy, Motor Club. I kind of made a statement to you the other day, and I'm like, I would have honestly seen RCR switch before Jimmy Johnson. I know that's funny to see here, but I mean, it's true. Just I just couldn't see Jimmy Johnson on a Toyota. It's definitely going to be funny seeing all those Jimmy Johnson fans that hated on Toyotas for all these years to see Jimmy Johnson above a Toyota there. So
Hey, about that.
you know, um, yeah, I mean, heck, the guy even drove a lot of Chevy and Indy cars, so the dude's been Chevy forever. Or no, I think they're actually Honda.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think
Chip
they were
Ganassi is
Hondas.
Honda, yeah. So that's even odder, right? Uh, yeah, so I think it's a really really good move for them. Kind of strange that their truck team is going to stay as a Chevy, is from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Um, I was that one kind of blew me away a little bit, but if you think about it, other than them and KBM now, they're really the only Chevy truck teams, and if they went to Toyota, it would really just be KBM. And then the two car for Sanchez, but that's basically a KBM truck anyways. So I am surprised that the truck program isn't going to go to Toyota. That one's kind of strange. Having a cup team that's Toyota and a truck team that's Chevy. I don't know how that relationship is really going to go. We kind of heard. I don't know if you listened to the download last week uh, uh, with Bill Davis on there talking about how he was a manufacturer for Dodge, and then he had a deal with Toyota to, work on the truck program. And Dodge was like, yeah, we're just not gonna do that. Um, so I'm super surprised that both parties kind of have that split down the middle. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's super super good. I'm excited. I'm a big Eric Jones fan. Have been for a while. So excited to see him. I kind of wanted him to go to the 4 car just because I didn't think that the 43 was going to be very good, but definitely with their move over Toyota, I think that they'll see an uptick of performance. It'll make the grid a lot better, but I think it'll also be good for the remaining Chevy teams as well, right? So the resources that uh, Legacy Motor Club was getting are now going to be readily available for the other Chevy teams.
Yep.
Um, I'm sure probably the pecking order at Chevy is probably 50% Hendrick Motorsports and everybody else is fighting for the other 50%. That's probably the pecking order. If you're Chevy, and then probably RCR probably takes probably another 40%, and then it's down to, a 10% fight between the other ones. So will definitely be interesting next year to see how they do. I mean, obviously the super speedways are going to be a massive uptick for the Toyotas. So yeah, I I don't see how you hate the move.
Unless you're a Chevy fan and a Jimmy Johnson fan. All right, so couple loose, or I guess really one more loose end to tie up here. The greatest 75 list got one more to add tomorrow, and we pretty much already know who that is. Want to go through some of the names that were added last week, and then talk about some of the names added this week. So last week we had Dale Jr., Bobby Labonte, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski get their name added to the list, all really deserving. And this week had a few more names added. We had Larry Phillips, Sam Ard, both Kurt and Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, and Matt Kenseth was the newest announced today. obviously we pretty much know tomorrow who's getting announced tomorrow. That would be Jimmy Johnson. I would be blown out of my pants if he was not announced tomorrow, um, because that would be a crime. Um, so yeah, those are the greatest 75. Michael, I don't know if you want to add any comments to that onto that real quick before we move into Darlington this week.
No, I mean all of those drivers are 100%, deserving of where they're at. You know, kind of disappointed. There's a few names that aren't going to be on that list. That were kind of passed over that are in lower series, but there's got to be another 25 years for the top 100, right? So maybe they'll make it then. Um, yeah, there's nobody on that list right there of people that were announced over the past really 2 weeks that you can kind of disagree with. Um, yeah, I mean, Junior, you know, not as successful on the racetrack as people would like him, but the things that he's done for the sport in general, um, even though it's off the racetrack, I still think that's extremely great for our sport. Bobby Labonte, a champion in his own right. Martin Truex Jr., recent champion. Bad Brad, definitely deserving. I don't know much about Larry Phillips, so that's shame on me. Everybody knows who Sam Art is, especially with how much in the early, 2010s that Kyle Busch was compared to Sam Art in the Xfinity Series. We all kind of know a little bit about Sam. Kurt, obviously, 100% deserving, as well as Kyle. I kind of was hoping that Kevin was going to be announced last, and they were going to do something nice for him, for his final year. Joey, honestly, two-time champ, probably going to win another one before his time is up. And then Matt Kenseth, another one as well. The last guy to win a real NASCAR championship, as a lot of people like to say. And we can all thank Matt Kenseth for the chase, format. So, well deserving. We'll see Jimmy. Like you said, we'll see Jimmy over the next 2 days. If it's not tomorrow, it'll be sometime this week. Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I do think is funny is they kind of brought up somebody in a comment is it's funny, no matter what manufacturer you drive for, your car is a Chevy that they take out of a box.
This is very true. This is very
So
true.
I thought that was funny.
Had that same diecast in 164 over there, so yeah, they didn't give a lot of options for manufacturers. That's all right.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, moving on to Darlington this week, throwback weekend, of course. And that kind of begs the question, because I've been thinking about it. We kind of talked about this, off air, so I kind of want to make this a little quick so we can get into picks here. But we're going into year 8 of Throwback Weekend. This started in 2015 when the Cup schedule, I guess, brought Darlington back to Labor Day weekend. I believe Kevin Harvick was the first to throw back with Budweiser, because they decided that, hey, if we're going back to our original, weekend, why not throw back? So that started this whole trend, and now 8 years later, I feel like we're kind of at the point where I don't really know why we're doing it anymore. It just feels more like a gimmick, especially because, yes, Darlington got a second date, but the reason this all started, like I said, was because we moved Darlington back to the Southern 500 weekend, thus creating the opportunity for throwback schemes, because that's what that race was run on, was Labor Day weekend. So when you move it to Mother's Day weekend, now there were Darlington races back in the day that were run on Mother's Day. That's not the issue here, but the fact that we're making that throwback weekend with no real reason, I guess, that's where I kind of question, like, do we really still need to do this? And my thought on this is we have NASCAR's 75th anniversary this year. That's cool. We're going to get some more throwbacks. I kind of feel like after this year, we may be done with it. Or at least I feel like we should probably be done with it, because there's not very many throwbacks left that we can really do. People are going to start recycling. They already have. And really the big one is we're not really seeing a lot of sponsors commit to going full on with these throwbacks. I would say the biggest offender this year, at least, is Sunny D for Kevin Harvick. I looked at that car. I had no idea what car I was looking at until I looked in the background and they had his 30 AOL car in the back. that doesn't look anything like what that car did. So I think we're at a point where I think after this year, it's probably going to run its course.
Um, so I mean, as usual, I have a couple opinions on how looking at this thing. So when they first started, right, the kind of theme was pick a decade, right? That was kind of like the theme. Then it kind of got lost like the third year, right? So I think it would have been okay had we kept picking a decade and that was your decade to choose from. But the problem is that NASCAR picked a decade. It worked for the first year, worked for the second year, and the third year they just kind of did whatever they wanted, and the NASCAR stopped picking a decade, right? So they kind of lost kind of the luster of what it was supposed to do. Second, kind of like you said, if teams are going to sign up for a throwback, it's got to be right. Like it can't be the bullshit that we saw from Sunny D, and it can't be what was the car the other year? Wasn't it a Kleenex car or something that like it was supposed to
47.
be? It was supposed to be like Ricky Craven's car, right? And it was like
That's right.
not
Yeah, that
the
I
right.
because I remembered they had done
Yeah,
something weird. JTG. I
yeah,
just couldn't remember what the
yeah,
scheme was. Yeah, they
yeah.
said it was supposed to be Ricky Craven, but they made like half the car Tide, half the car Kleenex. Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, like if you're gonna do it, that's the part that ruins it, right? Um, and then you have people that repeat the schemes, which I'm not hating on. I still think they look good, but when like Denny Hamlin's repeating the same scheme 3 years, 3 years removed, and it's the exact same scheme, and it's not the first time that he's done it, um, it gets kind of old. There's got to be something else that you can do. Honestly, if this is going to continue, I agree with you. Eventually, it's going to run its course. But I think that if you're going to do it and NASCAR is going to make this throwback weekend and they are going to make a precedent for this being throwback weekend and put all the money and investment into the advertisement, things like that, then it's up to the teams and the sponsors to agree to say, hey, this is throwback weekend. We are going to have a throwback. If you're going to be the sponsor for Darlington, you are going to be a throwback scheme. Start working on it now, right? It's got to be a collaboration between the teams and the sponsors. The problem right now is the sponsors are too proud and they want to keep their design one way, and they want it to be recognizable for the fans and things like that. But yeah, it's if you're not going to do it, just if you're not going to do it right, just don't do it at all. That's kind of my opinion on it.
Exactly what I was about to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I mean, that's it, yeah.
That's ultimately to put a bow on it. That's all you got to say. If you're gonna do it,
Yep.
make sure you do it right, or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we get into some picks here, Michael, for Talladega weekend? Got a lot of
Talladega.
Sorry, Darlington week. Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
Oh.
I think I saw something on this page and I was like, yeah, Talladega, sure. Darlington weekend. We're gonna start with the Truck Series. You want to go first? You want to give me the rope?
I'll let you have the rope.
That's great. I don't know who I'm picking. I'm gonna go for the Truck Series. I'm gonna go out on a limb. No real research at all. I'm gonna go Ben Rhodes.
Okay, I believe he does have a Truck Series win there, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're probably right.
Oh man, let's see. Any?
There is Bubba Wallace in the one.
Okay, all right. I
Corey
see you.
LaJoy is in the 7.
I just don't know how good that truck's gonna.
No,
I
I'm not.
just.
Not saying you should pick it. I'm just calling.
I listen. If Corey LaJoy is in the 51, I'd pick Corey LaJoy hands down. I think Corey LaJoy doesn't get the credit that he actually deserves, in all honesty. But I'm gonna actually pick the person in the 51, which is William Byron.
It's a safe bet. All right, who we got here for the Xfinity race? Just because he was.
Just pick the low hanging fruit.
Who's the low hanging fruit for you?
The guy in the 10 car.
You know what? I'm not gonna do that because I already had my mind made up. I'm going Josh Berry. Because I'm pretty sure he almost got it done last year and then got that penalty.
He is running one of my favorite race cars.
The Hut Strickland Circuit City car.
I love that Circuit City car. It looks so good. I'm actually not. I'm actually also not going to go with um,
Wow.
Kyle Larson. I'm actually going to go with the guy who almost won it last year. This is going to be the third time that I've picked him this year, but I think Sheldon Creed is finally going to win.
All right.
Finally, I know I said that a lot. Finally, but I think he was really good here last year. This is a very Sheldon Creed type racetrack, and if he can just not wreck in the first 75% of the race, I think he can get it done. Let's not forget who he held off last year until the last corner.
Fair
So
enough. All right. Well, for Cup, I really want to pick Denny Hamlin, but I don't trust that pit crew yet. So I think I'm going to instead go with Martin Truex Jr.
hmm, that was actually probably going to be my pick. So now I got to repick.
I,
All
I
right,
I
I
have a feeling
kind of
it's probably going to be one of the Toyotas. I just don't know which one.
all right. So I kind of said it earlier. I think this will be the first time that I've actually picked him
Oh,
this year. So I told you earlier today that the 8 car at worn out racetracks with tons of tire wear, with tons of fall off, was really good at California. Okay,
yep.
we were pretty good at Darlington, or we were pretty good at Dover. We were pretty good at Kansas last week. We ran all the way back into the top 5. Who knows where we would have finished? The 8 car ran really really good. Finished third in this exact race last year. Um, I think that I have a good feeling bringing out the Lucas Oil car again. I think we're going to make it 3 wins on the year. Plus, if we keep on the trend from uh, 2008, we would win at Darlington again at the exact same race number.
All right. We will have to see. Hopefully, he doesn't get wrecked this weekend, and we have a pretty good weekend.
Yeah,
All right.
kind of wrecked himself last weekend, but that's a
Yeah,
different story.
is what it is. All right. Well, speaking of race weekend, do we have any other racing this weekend, Michael?
Honestly, I completely forgot to look.
All right.
We do have Formula One. I do.
Where are they at,
Actually,
Michael? I was
actually, no.
gonna say.
That's what weekend is this? No, that's next weekend. Uh, no, I don't think there's actually. I think IndyCar is at uh, the Indianapolis Road Course this weekend.
Is it Grand Prix weekend?
Yep. I think this is the weekend, and the next weekend is the qualifying, and then the week after that is obviously the 500. And I think this is the week off for Formula One, and then they go to Imola, I believe, and then to Monaco.
Fair enough.
Supercross is on its final race of the year with a sad championship ending. I don't know if you follow Supercross, Justin, but um, the championship leader basically led it for most of the year. Was going to go for his third and back-to-back championship, basically on his retirement tour at his hometown. Basically has it locked up as long as he finishes the next 2 races. Goes out in the main event, lap 1, over jumps a jump a little bit, no big deal. Blows out his Achilles.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and the guy in second just doesn't have to do anything. He's only the guy in second's the only person that can now win the championship. He could just not show up.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty. It was brutal. It was a brutal situation to watch. But yep, they'll be racing their final race at first Supercross season before outdoors this week. So yeah, I think they're in Arizona this week. So a little bit of stuff to watch, but overall, I love Darlington. It's one of my favorite races of the year. I think all the series there put on a really really good show. I think even on iRacing, people tend to use their heads a little bit during Darlington week. So it's been fun on iRacing. I've ran a few races there, so love Darlington as a racetrack. Seeing all the throwbacks is pretty cool. So that's definitely my main focus Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I think we're all good to go here. You want to take us home here?
Absolutely. As far as normal guys, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know how we're doing. It really, really does help. Leave us a comment. We got our Twitter handlers down there as well. So if you guys want to make a comment on the video, just let us know. But have a good weekend. As far as I know, my name is Michael and his name's still Justin. And we'll catch you next weekend.